Good morning. I'm Scott Leslie, the Director of the Albany County Veterans Service Bureau. Welcome to our Honor a Veteran ceremony for the month of March. Today we're paying tribute to Frank Leake, served in the Navy, U.S. Navy during World War II.
We ask God to watch over the Leake family, as well as all of our veterans and their families. Remind us always that freedom, peace, and possibility can and will triumph as America remains one nation under God. God bless America. God bless our veterans. Amen.
Amen.
It's hard to sum someone's life up that had such an impact on the community, not just on his family and the stories you can share. I always say this when we do these things. It's I could spend 3 hours talking about the services to his country, the medals he's got awarded, and I thank him for that service. Knowing what he did to put his life on the line and to go into the Navy and do his service and come back and continue. That is the greatest generation. This country our foundation's built off of World War II vets that came back and dug in and did extraordinary things building this country, right? With little education, and most of them never graduated from high school. Some didn't even get through grade school. Back in them days, you had to work. You had to work to put food on the table for your family and to pay the rent. And it just shows you the extraordinary things you can do. It's a great honor, and I do want to say thank you for letting me be part of his life, Meg, and you and the family, and extraordinary man that's going to continue on for generations. But I do want to say thank you for letting me share this moment. And it was hard because I was just like trying. I usually, go through stuff and I'm like writing this down last night, and I'm like, man, I don't know where to stop. I don't know where to go because there's just so many great stories. And when people say, they go, they assume sometimes he's my father because I got him on my desk. And I'm like, no, that cat just cracked me up, man. He just kept it straight every time I called him, didn't sugarcoat it, whether I did something good or bad. He was like, well, Dan, you messed up, but they'll forget about you tomorrow, and it was just funny, the experience I had with him. But I do want to say thank you.
In the village of Colony, enabled him to really utilize the opportunity to assemble and speak freely, freedoms for which he fought, in defense of Colony, the village of Colony, making certain that he could be that outstanding leader. And he was cut for that job, custom made for that job. He had the personality, he had the presence to be able to lead this wonderful village in a very distinctive way. And always a gentleman, carried himself as a gentleman. And I'd heard about the work that he had done as a contractor in construction, again, building community after he came back from service in World War II in that Asiatic Pacific theater. And can't help but think, as we recognize that accomplishment, that we owe so much to that greatest generation that was a force against fascism and communism, something that we cherish even today.
Our cadets that are here, our JROTC cadets who are joining us today, and I think it's always appropriate to draw that comparison for these cadets to a young man when he was just 18 who joined our nation's service. And to think about the scale of what was going on at that time in 1945 and the job that he was called to do in the Navy. The USS Corps, I looked it up just briefly when I got here, was part of a hunter-killer team. So think about being 18 years old in your shoes, right? Coming from here over to there. And in that 1 year span of service, what he experienced and what he did for all of us today, right? Just in that 1 year time of service to our nation, and then coming back and continuing to serve in various capacities.
I've known Frank, I knew Frank since I was a little girl, growing up in the village of Colony. And when I tell you he was a legend, he was a legend. His service to this country talks about one thing, and many people have talked about that up here, but his service to the people of the village of Colony is incredible. When he brought me on as a trustee in 2013, I think it was, and we were campaigning, the stories he would tell me, every door that we went to, he knew somebody in that household, and he knew something about them. And he helped so many of those people. Times when I would say, Frank, I don't know if we can do that. And he'd say, it doesn't matter. We're here for the people, Patty. And he never got anything for himself. It was always for the people, and I can attest to that personally. He was a fantastic mayor, a fantastic husband and father and grandfather, and we loved him so much in this village.
I can tell you that Frank Leak, as a public servant, beginning with his military service, has set a standard of public service so as to create a role model for the rest of the people who serve publicly here in the town of Colonnade. His tenure was far and wide, and his impact on our town as well is forever memorialized, even with 50 grandchildren, which is just the beginning of what's happening here. But you know, I would look to him, and oftentimes people would say, what would Frank do? What does he think? What would he do? And more of us could learn about the way that he looked at public service to enhance not only the village, but the town of Colonnade. Frank Leak truly left the town better than he found it.
I was very upset about the traffic in the area, and I went down there to see Frank, and he had heard that there was a gentleman waiting out to see him. And as soon as he saw the look in my face, he knew that I wasn't there to take him out to lunch. And he came up to me, and I was wearing a Syracuse Orangeman hat. And the first thing he said to me was, "Orangeman, great team." Threw me completely off. We talked about everything but traffic that day. And when I left, I was a member of the traffic committee. Later on, to become the chairman of the traffic committee, zoning board of appeals. I could go on and on about the things that Frank called me to serve for. Mayor Jim could not be here with us today. Rubino, he's away. And he wanted me to tell you all that he is absolutely honored to follow in the footsteps of a true legend. But most importantly, we cannot serve enough. Thinking about the legacy and what Frank Leak has done for the United States of America, the village, the town, the county. Frank is a living legend, but most importantly, Frank is our forever mayor.
And when we think about our Constitution, it really is premised on a foundation that those of us who have the honor of serving in elected office do it not for ourselves, but for the communities and the people that we represent. And Frank epitomized that. He embodied that. And so when I became a mayor, he was one of the first people to reach out to me to check on my mental health, but to also talk about what this job really is, and about ensuring that if you always keep the people at the front of your mind, at the front of every decision that you make, that you'll do okay.
As I read through his story, I see a lifetime of vision, devotion to the community, and just pure commitment to all those around him. And we like to think that we inculcate that in folks or give it to them, but truthfully, it was always there. Reading through, you know, there was a line in there about his mom taught him always to treat others as he wanted to be treated. And I found that really touching as I thought through it. And so service comes in a lot of forms. You know, you could be part of a community organization, the VFW. You could give back as an elected representative, or just serve in a normal government position. And it's very important that we recognize that, but just as important, we recognize military service.
Frank's family would like to thank all of our elected officials for honoring Frank today as March's Honor Vet of the Month. We'd also like to thank myself here, VFW Post 8692, for nominating Frank. Thank you to Gene Leparco for all the pictures he's taken over the years, and that's many of them. Thank you to Scott Leslie for the Albany County Veterans Bureau. Thank you to former Congressman Michael McNulty. Frank was a Navy veteran of World War II from 1945 to 1946 on the USS Core CVR-13. He received the American Theater Medal, the Victory Medal, and the Asiatic Pacific Medal. Frank always remembered what his mother taught him, to treat people the way you would want to be treated. He carried that with him for his life. Frank was a trustee in the Village of Colony 16 years and a mayor in the Village of Colony for 24 years. Frank's office door was always open to anyone that wanted to talk to him, and it was because he used to call me to come in and cut his hair in his office. Those were some interesting conversations and days. Frank received many awards during his 24 years as mayor of the village. One very special award was the Award for Living Resources in 2013, which they named in his honor the Frank A. Leak Award. Each year, Frank would present the award at the Living Resources Day Community Opportunities Program award ceremony. To a new recipient in 2018, he was presented the 2018 Living Legend Award and the Living Resources. In 2019, at the age of 92, Mayor Leak was the honorary inductee into Colony Central High School Hall of Fame. At the graduation ceremony, Frank spoke to the graduates. Not only did he receive his high school diploma, he also received the only standing ovation of the evening. In closing, we'd like to thank Frank's friends, family, and everyone here for honoring Frank today. Another honor to a great man, and he will live in our hearts forever, and he will. Thank you.